you ready to transform your space into a masterpiece? Introducing Mosaics, your destination for stones and more. Mosaics is a family-owned business serving the community for over 20 years. With the best quality porcelain, ceramic tiles, and high-end mosaics featuring unique modern designs, Mosaics has everything you need. Dedicated customer service, wholesale distributors, and a passion for excellence. Make sure you visit mosaics.com today to turn your vision into a reality.
Hello, friends from Fire Reasons. Welcome to our post-game show right after the 1-0 loss of Inter Miami to FC Cincinnati. We're going to do an instant reaction here in a second. We had Ashley and we lost her. Here she is. And we also had Austin, who's back from Drive to the Stadium. Welcome, guys. Inter Miami season is almost over, but we are already eliminated after this loss and the other results that took place in other stadiums. Your first reaction, guys. Let's go with Ashley, and then we'll jump back with Austin. Go ahead, Ashley.
Okay, hi there. My reaction is about the first half, and I was really happy with our play. The ball just didn't want to go in the back of the net for Inter Miami. I think it's kind of just the way the cards are going to unfold for this. And but like I said, I thought the boys played a really good first half. At the beginning of the second half, there was a big drop off. Messi came on. I mean, I think it's clear that he's not at 100%. I think he still gave a lot of, great moments and things like that. I don't think he should have been put in as the number 9. I think he should have stayed on the right because that's where he does his best creating. And so it felt not forced, but it just felt like he, when he can, because they were continuously building from the right. And so I would have rather been building out through him as opposed to Yedlin or Robert Taylor or even Stefanelli, who, the goal, the pass, anyways. But, so yeah, my initial thoughts is that great play in the first half. Most of the game, I think they held their own. I think it's probably fair to say that the first half Cincinnati was not giving 100%, and we really needed to capitalize on it. But again, I think that's kind of just how the season is meant to end, kind of on that note. But much better than we've seen over the last few games, so that makes me happy. But yeah, that's about where I'm at. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing. It's disappointing to watch. It's disappointing to take in. I think that the game plan really from the beginning looked good, and I think the game management towards the second half is where he completely lost it. I didn't think that. I do agree with your assessment of Messi. I do think he should have been off to the right. Playing up the middle was a little bit forced, and he put him in areas at the top of the box where, yes, he is very dangerous, but it's him trying to weave through 3 and 4 defenders time and time and time again, and it just wasn't sustainable. And I think that too, with David Ruiz coming off, I know that it seems like that doesn't have that much effect, but David Ruiz coming off changed the game for me. I thought that he was a player who, in reality, kind of was pushing the game forward for Inter Miami at all times in that first half. He was running up and down the pitch. He was on the defensive end. He was on the offensive end. There was no reason for him to come off. I thought Benjamin Kromeshki could have come off. I didn't think that he had, I don't think he's actually had a good run of form in the last couple of matches, to be completely honest with you. I like Jean Mota coming on. I'll be honest with you. I think that him and Messi have started to build a little bit of a connection off the field, and on the field it's kind of working a little bit, both of those left-footed players. So I think going into 2024, that's a nice little sign. Maybe not for Gregory, but we'll get to off-season talk here soon enough. But yeah, I think that this team has a lot of holes that need to be addressed. I don't think that Tata Martino got this one right yet again, and I think that that's been a theme over the last couple of matches, especially in the U.S. Open Cup final, where you really needed it to happen. At the end of the day, when this team has to win games, ever since the Leagues Cup final, they just haven't done it. So there's a lot of concern, but I do think that this is going to boil over and be the start of a run for off-season moves. And I think that in the next 2 games, you're going to see players that maybe are on the fringe or players that are coming up through the academy and whatnot who have signed first-team deals like Lawson Sunderland, Santi Morales, players like that who need to prove themselves going forward for 2024 under Tata Martino if he's to still be the coach, which I imagine it is a long-term idea for him to be here. So whether we like it or not, so a lot to be said, but that's kind of my gist of it for now.
Yeah. Well, so to go off of that, and I apologize. I know this is moving around so much. It's part of post-game in a car. We just, nevertheless, we persist. With Tata, to be honest with you, like you said, in the first half, I think he had a stellar game plan, and the players just didn't finish. I think, and I have to look at the replay a couple times, but I don't know why Kremaski felt the need to try and do a chip with the outside of his right foot. You're driving forward, just shoot it in the damn left corner hard with your left foot. That's kind of what I wanted. Aviles, that was a superb strike on that corner that just, it was an unfortunate bounce that it didn't go his way. But yeah, I agree. We're going to see, who stays and who goes. I thought Kremaski had a better game. And same for Chicago. I think his form is getting better. Like, I think he's certainly better than he was a week or so ago. But I even said this to my mom. I said in the 60th minute, he looks so tired. The poor kid has had to run 1,000 minutes in the last, 3 weeks. Why isn't he being taken off? Ruiz has been looking fresh and, playing longer. I agreed with the substitutions in terms of who came on the pitch. I disagree with who came off the pitch. I don't think Joseph needed to come off, to be honest with you. I thought he was also doing and he should have stayed in the center and Messi should have gone on the right. I don't know why. Maybe the idea is that they didn't want Messi to run as much, from the right side and kind of be controlled in the middle. But I was watching him the whole time he was playing. He had 4 defenders around him at all times, and he obviously wasn't going to immediately be doing those explosive runs to get open, which is understandable. And so, yeah, I don't know why Tata, for that situation, Messi needs to be the playmaker, right? He needs to be put in positions to make plays for other people who can run those extra yards and do the push. So, yeah, it was disappointing in that aspect to see the game plan start strong, but then maybe not finish strong. Also, I don't know if everyone likes my hat from Fan Appreciation Night. We definitely should talk a little bit about the supporters situation that happened, and I don't know how clear it was from Apple TV. I don't know if they mentioned it or if you could tell from online videos, but if you weren't there, the supporter section was full like normal. However, instead of everyone standing, and there are 3 groups of personnel of supporter groups, only was it Vice City in the middle? I think only Vice City was up and playing instruments and singing. The other 2 sides of the supporter section, they stayed seated the whole game and they didn't do the songs. And so it definitely was quieter than it normally was. And so, will that make a big difference? I don't know. What I stressed with Gian in our preview yesterday was that fans are the most important part of any team, of the community. And so, fans feeling hard done by, they take action. We'll see what happens with it, but it was certainly interesting to see in person. Yeah, but so here's my question for you, right? Who outside of, of the players who we know are guaranteed to be here next season, the ones who aren't, which ones do you think deserve to stay, that you've seen good things out of, that you think will stay, even just based on who played tonight? I'm just, curious.
Well, I obviously think I have to say something in this post-game show about Drake Callender. First of all, happy birthday to him. Second of all, what an outstanding performance. So I want to say, he did everything he absolutely could to keep Miami in this playoff race, but the offense is where they were not able to, and that goes for the entirety of this season. At the back, obviously, Kamal Miller is signing that new deal. Extremely important for his longevity at the club, but also extremely important for a transfer fee as well. I'm not saying that he's on his way out. I do think that the contract extension was more of a sign of him staying in Miami rather than leaving. So that's a sign. And I think that him, Kristoff, and Aviles as a back 3, although Gian hates it, I didn't mind what I saw today from those 3 guys as a collective unit, other than Aviles not able to track behind Kristoff at one moment, and Lucci almost scored for Cincinnati. I think that those 3 guys in reality were able to kind of shut down the Cincinnati counterattacks in times when it looked very threatening because of the fact that DeAndre Yedlin and Noah Allen were pushed so far up the field. And so those three guys as a unit, I do think that they might want to go for another younger center back instead of Kristoff going forward. But I do think that he's a reliable option and a cheap option to keep around. So at the back, I didn't hate the performance today from Inter Miami at all. So that's the only part I'm like kind of pleased with. I also thought it was Sergio Busquets' best game in a long, long time. I thought that he had been falling off just a little bit. So yeah, I do think it was probably his best game in a while. Obviously, he'll be staying as well. David Ruiz will probably have a starting role in 2024 at some point. Benjamin Kremeshki, I think, still needs a little bit more polishing, more than David Ruiz. And honestly, I thought it was a vice versa earlier on, but right now I see David Ruiz as the more polished starter over Benjamin Kremeshki over the last couple of games, which might be a hot take, but I haven't enjoyed Benjamin Kremeshki's football as of late.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, Facundo Farias needs also to step up a little bit. I know that he kind of was handed the keys in Messi's absence in the last 5 games, and he's had the responsibility of kind of taking on everything in terms of chance creation and the entire offense, and he's been the one having to connect everything, and it hasn't necessarily worked. I thought that he was very poor against Chicago. Joseph Martinez was carrying the load. I thought the same thing tonight. I thought Joseph Martinez was carrying the load and making the connections on offense, and somehow for me gets taken off, which is just baffling. So I don't know. I don't think, just because contractually Joseph probably won't be here. You think of guys like Stefanelli, Chris McVay, Ryan Saylor, who have not played in these matches, and I think that that's where you're going to see a lot of the overhaul. The guys that aren't getting minutes under Tata Martino or are getting limited minutes under Tata Martino without injury, because obviously with John Mota, I do believe he's a piece of this team going forward, and he's been injured. But for all those other players who haven't been getting minutes, those are the ones you might see on the door out. And as for, let me just specify for David Ruiz, I do want to say this. I didn't mean starting role as he's going to start 34 games next year. I think that he's going to continue to gain starts as he has this year, but he's not going to be a guaranteed starter in the midfield. I do think that he will just be a depth piece going forward. He's still a little bit too young and also needs polishing, but I do think that he will see some starts in 2024 because he is the more polished midfielder right now that fits what Miami's trying to do.
Yeah, well, so, and on that point specifically, this is where I think the biggest problem is. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So here's what I think the biggest problem is that Kremeshki, when he's not polished offensively or he's not, connecting or getting that thing, he doesn't then assume the role defensively and try to fill gaps. With Ruiz, what he does is he fills the gap that is being asked of him. He sometimes has gone up. He obviously has gotten a goal. I think he's gotten maybe 2 goals. He's taken some good shots. He almost got that winner against New York City. But he knows, when to play the defensive role, and he knows when to create passes. Kremeshki seems like he only has one setting, right? Which is forward midfield. And when you have Busquets and you have, especially when you have a front 3, he needs to be able to adapt. And he doesn't seem like he's adapting well. And I think that's kind of your point. In terms of Joseph, I agree. Like I said earlier, he should have stayed on the pitch. But unless he takes a 90% salary decrease because he wants to play another year with Messi, which I can understand, he's not going to be on the team next year. I slightly disagree in terms of Kristoff's performance. I thought he actually was slow. Like, I felt that compared to the other defenders, he had to give away a lot of fouls because he was beat or because he didn't think he could take them on one-on-one. And for the way Inter Miami want to play moving forward, it's just not sustainable. I think give Tata an offseason with Ryan Saylor. I think Ryan Saylor, who played a lot last year, is a great center back who's young and smart. He was taken number 1 or a top 3 pick last year when we took him, and I think he has so much potential to be that third center back. I would like to see that because I don't think Kristoff honestly is worth keeping at this point, unless it's for such a minimum amount of money. I would rather have 2 young center backs in Kristoff and McVay and Saylor to see what they do. I think DeAndre Yedlin had a much better game than he had in the past. Because he was tracking back more, and he was just trying to be more influential in his movements. Noah Allen, who I love, and I love the kid's effort and his, his desire. His lack in offensive playmaking is really apparent, and it's becoming more and more apparent, and that's something he's going to have to really work on in the offseason. And I think Jordi Alba is going to do a great job of teaching him. So I think it's good, but it's clear that if we have, instances where Jordi can't play, which obviously is going to happen here and there, Tots is going to have to immediately shift away from having a situation where you need your left back making crosses to create offense, unless you have Robert Taylor there, because every single time Noah Allen took the ball on the left side, I had zero confidence that it was going to be a cross that made any type of noise. And if I feel that way before he even makes the run, then it's not in good shape. But I agree with most of what you said. I think Mota 1,000% will be starting next year. He deserves to be. I think him, Busquets, and I think you'll see back and forth between Ruiz and Kramaski. I think that's a great starting three. We have to see what happens with Gregory. We have Arroyo. It's going to be an interesting offseason because I do think they're going to have to figure out rotational pieces. We were saying that we were deep, but I don't think maybe we are as deep as we thought. And it'll be interesting. I also, since I'm on my phone, I can't see comments, so I don't know what people's general consensus is, but yeah, that's kind of what my thoughts are in terms of who's staying, who's going. I think, unfortunately, we've seen the last of Robbie Robinson, which makes me, as you know, devastated.
Yeah, I don't think that you'll be seeing much of him going forward. I also don't think – I don't know. I have no good feeling about Ryan Saylor or Chris McVay under Tata Martino, not to, break their spirits, but I just don't – I don't see it happening. I think that they want to upgrade the position, if anything, rather than use those guys. I think Ryan Saylor was a end of first round pick, maybe early second, something like that. I don't know.
I don't know why
I don't remember what it was, but I think it was late first round or mid first round, something like that. But I don't think it was super early. But anyway, that's besides the point. As for Sergei Kristov, say that again.
Am I remembering wrong? I said, am I having the wrong memory? Did you think he played well last year? I know last year was a blur, but I thought Ryan Taylor did a decent job last year.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think that he did a bad job, and I do think that he had some really good performances. I think the one performance that I remember from last year was the first game away from home at Charlotte, where he had to step in as a starting center back last year and came on and played really well, and that's when Phil Neville started to use him a lot throughout the year, or in the latter half of the year anyway. But I just don't – the same thing with Chris McVay. I thought Chris McVay had really good performances in the last two seasons, and whether it was a left back or at center back, and there were times where he wasn't as good, there were times where he was okay. He was a serviceable guy. That's the only way I see Ryan Saylor as well, as serviceable. I don't see them as elevating the defense, and that's – I would actually say the same thing about Sergei Kristov. The only thing that Kristov has over those two guys is the veteran experience, and that's what you want leading a back three. And I am okay to accept that. I'm not saying Kristov is a locked-in starter going forward, but I do think that having him as that presence is a good thing. And we have disagreed in the past about Sergei Kristov, but I would disagree about his performance against him. I thought there were times where he was in positions that made a lot more sense and gave comfortability for Miami on those Cincinnati counterattacks. And I do think that if that partnership between those three guys were to build going into 2024, it could be a positive thing. I'm not completely down on it with Miller, Aviles, and Kristov, but if I had to make a guess, I would say that they are going to look to upgrade that position for sure. I don't think that you will see Kristov starting 34 games next season. That's just me being realistic rather than what I want or whatever. And that would be the same thing for Saylor and McVay and Robbie and Stefanelli and all these guys. Joseph Martinez because of contractual reasons. Even Gregory, you have to think about that as well. I know you mentioned him. I don't even know if he's going to be on the team next season. We're going to have a lot of off-season talk, but because of his DP status and the money that he's making, actually not because of the money that he's making, it's actually because of the transfer fee from Bahia. that we used to acquire him that's put him up to the DP status. There's a lot of different variables into the MLS roster building, and we've seen Miami do it before in terms of having the biggest offseason overhaul, roster overhaul in the league with like 14 or 15 players. I think that you could see 8 or 9, maybe even more with Inter Miami this offseason. So going into 2024, it's still a positive outlook. I know that this game was hard to take. I know that missing the playoffs is hard to take.
Felt better than I felt in like 2 weeks about this team.
Yeah, because we're just relieved. It's gone. I don't have to worry about the playoffs anymore. I don't need to worry about them, and the mathematics and whatever in my head. I can save that for my calculus class. Like, it's over, right? And they can go into 2024, think about the CONCACAF Champions Cup, think about making the U.S. Open Cup final again. You got the Leagues Cup again, and you'll have the full MLS regular season with Lionel Messi rather than just the back half in which you were trying to pull off a miracle, which they could have done. It looked like they could have done, but they fell off the wagon here late on with a couple of unfortunate results not going their way because the effort wasn't there, the performances weren't there, the tactics weren't there. But there's a lot to build on. So after the October 21st game, Ashley, they won't play another MLS match until late February. I mean, it's a long layoff. Short layoff, but long layoff in terms of how many games they have been playing. And I think that, given what we think about this team going forward and the moves that are going to be made, there should be some level of optimism because of the fact that we have seen the kind of really just how aggressive the ownership has been, the coaching staff has been in terms of getting players, trying to revamp it. You've seen it with the 3 U22 DPs, and I don't think that that's going to stop at all.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think I this is gonna be kind of like my last thing I say because I think I'm losing service a little bit, but I agree. We can only look up. I like we've said in a couple of the last ones. There are definitely some changes and logistical improvements that we'd like to see from the club as they handle fans, as they handle media, etc. It's obviously a lot has to happen to have Lionel Messi on your team. What we've seen so far has been a huge success. It's been amazing to watch. We've been able to keep growing this community, and it's been so fun. I'm so excited for next season. We'll be watching the game on Wednesday. We'll be watching the game on Saturday. Obviously, Inter Miami won't be making the playoffs, and we probably won't see Messi play again this season. But I agree with you. The future is bright. We only can look up from here. Excited to see what Tata does with an off season and maybe with some more complementary pieces to the style of football he wants to play. But it's exciting stuff. It's good stuff, and I'm ready to go. We'll get a break. I feel like we've worked harder than the players, honestly. No, I'm kidding. But it'll be good, and we'll have a lot of great content, great things planned for next season, and I'm excited.
Yep. All right, Ashley, thank you so much. Get home safe, drive home safe, and for everybody who's driving home from the stadium watching, get home safe as well. And make sure, obviously, you look at Ashley's Twitter. She's sometimes tweeting about Taylor Swift, sometimes tweeting about Lionel Messi. You get the best of both worlds there. So go ahead and make sure you follow Ashley on Twitter. You can find it in the Messi & Co. Twitter as well. So, Ashley, thank you so much for everything. All right? Okay. I'm going to try and get to some comments here as Ashley heads out. I know there were a ton of opinions that came out in the comments and about a lot, really. And I do want to get to some of it because it is important, and I do want to address what you guys have been saying. I think that we come in here and we obviously talk a lot and we say a lot of things about our team and the way they play, and we have our own opinions, but I do want to take time to address everybody else. So I'm going to look up here and see if there's anything worth noting. We talked a lot about the defense. I see Jay here saying that his agenda about Aviles is thriving. Finally, I think this was probably his best game in an Inter Miami uniform, I would say. I do think that going forward, he of the 3 U22 DPs have the most longevity with Inter Miami. That might be a bold statement, but I can see him being an MLS center back for quite some time at just 19 years old. I think Farias either is going to end up being a little bit too talented for MLS if he develops well, or is just, from what we've seen in the last couple of games, I I can't say that it's been promising. That's not exactly the word I would use. I think, like I said, when he was handed the keys after Messi's departure from the team for those 5 games, just wasn't really working. And it's a lot to put on a young kid who isn't familiar with the league and has had to do things that no other player has been asked to do. However, you would like to see a little bit more. I was happy, really happy when he first came in. When he came off the bench, he was speedy, he was electric, seemed like he had this technical quality that not a lot of other players have had when they were brought in. But really, right now, Farias isn't looking as promising as he did early on, and I do think that's harsh because he's a young player, and the team as a whole has not played well. But I do shift a lot towards player ratings over team ratings, but I could talk about Tata Martino as well. Like I said, I do think David Luiz coming off was a terrible decision. I do think that Joseph Martinez coming off was a terrible decision. I think that those were the 2 guys actually in this game who were pushing you forward the most. And when I say pushing you forward, I mean trying to get you any sort of chance at goal. Joseph Martinez, obtaining the ball in and around the area with the layoffs, with the passes, with the turns. I think that what you saw at the second half of the Chicago game and, a lot of the first half in this game, it was promising from him. It was his better performances in an Inter Miami uniform, other than when, he was scoring earlier on this season. He had fallen off for me like a ton, and we had talked so much on the show. If you guys are listeners of the show, we had talked so much about how Campana is the striker, he signs the deal and all of that. But I don't see a future for Joseph with this team, although it is possible that he does take a pay cut and comes back. But on his DP money, it wouldn't make sense for Inter Miami if they have the ability to obtain a different, more quality player with that DP status. And with the young guys, with Kremeshki, with Ruiz, and with guys like Noah Allen too, who, I do agree that Noah Allen had a rough game offensively. I think that going forward, it was even evident at times that Inter Miami players were reluctant to give him the ball on the wings. And that's hard to say because, obviously this team uses their wingbacks a ton to try and create chances. And Noah Allen wasn't able to put in the crosses as you would want a Jordi Alba to. But he's not Jordi Alba, so we can't really expect that. I think defensively, Noah Allen rarely ever takes a wrong step. He gives you a little bit of, he gives you this presence of wow, this guy's really small. This guy is young, but at the same time, he's been so solid. And I think he reads the game very, very well from a defensive standpoint. So going forward as, a 19, 20-year-old kid being mentored by Jordi Alba when he comes back from injury, going forward, that is a huge piece for Inter Miami. And I don't want anybody to really knock too much on the youngsters right now, like I have been with Benjamin Kremeshki. I can admit that. But you still have guys on this roster like Franco Negri as well, who has been injured but was really good for Inter Miami to start the season. He's more of the opposite of Noah Allen. He's more of that offensive wingback that, you would like to see Noah Allen possess a little bit of those qualities. But when he comes back from injury next year, really his team just has to get healthy. That's really, really the key of it. And if they do get healthy, it will be a lot deeper than we originally thought it was. Because for a while, we were talking about how deep this team was, but really the personnel in the deeper parts of the team weren't fitting Tata Martino's style, or Tata Martino just wasn't reading the games well, which I do believe is part of it. So there's a lot to say about that too. I see this stuff about Lionel Messi and FC Barcelona. Look, don't hold your breath. I'll say that. I really don't think that that's a possibility. They thought it was a possibility earlier on before Messi even came to Miami to finish out his season there, blah, blah, blah. I just don't even think that is really on the cards right now. It could be, but I don't think that there's any truth to it other than Barcelona trying to do, or anybody in Barcelona trying to get anything, get Messi back. It just doesn't make sense from an MLS standpoint. Messi needs to relax. We know how fatigued he's been and tired he's been. And he'll get time before the Copa America in 2024, playing with Inter Miami in the spring, or winter and spring, I should say, before then. I think that's all I've got, Alejandro. I know you're there in the back. If you want to listen to one more thing from one of our amazing podcast sponsors, that would be lovely. And then we will head out of here and see you guys midweek and before Wednesday when they take on Charlotte. Charlotte for the first of two times. All right. See you guys.
If you are ready to transform your backyard into a haven of relaxation and luxury, look no further than our amazing podcast sponsor, L'Acqua Azzurra Pool Services. With over 20 years of industry experience, L'Acqua Azzurra is a name you can trust when it comes to services, equipment repairs, and restoration for all things pools. If you're looking in the South Florida area for your pool to be serviced on a month-to-month basis, L'Acqua Azzurra boasts an impressive 5-star rating on Google reviews, and it's a testament to their dedication to the customer satisfaction and top-notch service. Also, if you mention Messi & Co., you will get your first month of pool service absolutely free. So don't wait. For pool service, patio renovation, or more, call them now at 954-793-7206 and get a free quote for any project. Thanks, L'Acqua Azzurra.